My name is Richard Owen. I'm the president of Lehman's Gasket Company. We manufacture and distribute gaskets and fasteners for the energy exploration, petrochemical, refining industries. There's different kinds of gaskets that are used in the drilling and exploration. But if it is a static seal, we'll manufacture it. We have exercised for many years what we call our North American strategy. And we're going to do what has helped us succeed in the North American market and do it on a global basis. And that consists of having a low-cost manufacturing operation like we do here in Houston, owning our own distribution throughout North America and hopefully throughout the world at some point. And that is how we're going to proceed to try to attack the global market. We have a mixture of independent distributors and wholly owned distribution points. In Saudi Arabia, the laws are such that you can't own your own operation, so we will there have to compromise slightly on our model. There are other places in the world where you can own your own distribution. In Europe, we would classify as a developed market, not a developing market. So there, we would try to do an acquisition as opposed to opening our own branch. If we are able to find a suitable candidate in Europe, we hope maybe to do an acquisition someday. But it's the same in Europe. There's cultural issues that you have to overcome, and the local energy companies or refineries, even though they may be owned by a North American-based company, they still have a local flavor to them, and they do business in their own local way. The cultural issues always seem to be the hardest. Communicating with people in a different culture is always surprising, and it seems like you think that you have communicated effectively, but you haven't. And so, although we did a lot of training before we went to China, we had cultural sensitivity courses, we still had serious issues relating to our Chinese employees and relating to the Chinese market. So I would say cultural issues were one of the biggest problems. Regulatory issues were another. We, for instance, only found out after the fact that there was a law in China that you could only import completely new equipment. We were initially trying to send them some used equipment, and we only found that out the hard way. So those are just the kinds of things that happen that you need to hopefully head off with research, but in our case, we had to find out the hard way. We discovered after we had incorporated in China that there are actually regulations on the proportion of product that you can manufacture and the proportion of product that you can distribute. Here in the United States, it doesn't matter whether you distribute 90% or manufacture 90% of your product. In China, depending on the business scope that you submit, there are actual regulations that you cannot, for instance in our case, distribute more than 30% of the product that you sell. It's critical to have the input from the local people, for instance in China or in Canada, because they know what the expectations of the local jurisdiction are. We use their advice. And they, for instance, will tell us that within 2 to 3 years, the local jurisdiction expects you to be making X% profit. So we will set our standard transfer pricing at that level. We are actually manufacturing our product. It just happens to be in China. So we run the exact same quality system in China that we run here. My quality manager is in charge of the operations in China. My manufacturing manager here in Houston is in charge of the manufacturing operations there in China. So we do not have the same concern about Chinese manufactured products. We do, however, have a concern about the materials that we purchase locally. So the way we overcome that problem is we have a much more robust inspection system for the raw materials that we get in China to make sure that the product that we start, the raw material that we start with, is adequate, and then we control everything else, so we know that the product that we have manufactured in China is exactly the same as the product that we would have manufactured if it had been here in the United States. For instance, if someone enters a gasket in, doesn't matter where, it's as if a salesman here entered it, and instantaneously we can see that we have a new way of laying it out the most efficiently from a sheet of material, say, that exists in Houston, or that sheet of material might exist in Canada, or the sheet of material might exist in China. And that's all instantaneous. The way we look at it here is, even though the plant is in China, we manage it as if it's a department at our plant in Houston. Because with modern technology and the ERP system that we have, there's really no difference to manufacturing a product in Houston or in China. It's just outside the wall someplace. It's just the one in China happens to be a little bit further away than the department here in Houston. The biggest advantage to us is now that we're operating in China, we're able to follow our customers into China. We don't just want to manufacture low-cost product in China. We want to actually sell to customers in China, and many of our customers are moving to China now that we have a foothold there and feel relatively comfortable operating in that environment. It's been a huge benefit to us as we go to our customers and say, we are now going to implement our North American strategy that you've come to like. We're going to do that for you in China as well.
Richard Owen and his teams at Lehman's Gasket have learned 3 key lessons about buying from or selling to foreign countries. 1, hire good counsel. As Richard points out in this month's Business of the Eye of the Storm magazine, having the right attorneys, financial advisors, and business partners domestically and in the foreign country that you're doing business with can save a lot of heartache and cost down the line. Despite technologies enabling us to communicate instantly via email, there are a lot of nuances that make going global still very complex. Don't confuse sending emails to India with effective business practices. Secondly, make sure you're not only importing products, but exporting processes. Recent news stories about the quality control in Chinese plants obviously raise this issue. In Lehman's case, for example, they own their Chinese manufacturing facility and conduct rigorous quality control on the raw materials they use to produce their gaskets. The same holds true for Lehman's overseas distributors, with whom they deploy the same processes and the procedures with the distributors as they do for their North American ones. And finally, Lehman's takes to heart their motto, sealing global, serving local. Through their customized ERP, or Enterprise Resource Planning, the company is able to optimize their manufacturing in real time, whether it's in Houston, Texas, or Hangzhou, China. Their thinking has truly elevated Lehman's to the world stage, and they have $100 million in sales to show for it. You can learn more about the Lehman's Gasket story in this month's issue of Business in the Eye of the Storm magazine.